Hey, Dave here. Have you ever signed a group project and then had a heck of a time afterwards trying to figure out who contributed what to the group? I mean, some groups work great, right? Everybody contributes and it's all Shangri-La and happy days. But then you got those groups as well where you have like the kid who sits there and he's gone 3 out of the 5 days. And then on the fourth day, he finally shows up and takes a nap. And then on the fifth day, he works really hard and, managed to get his name on the paper and maybe one more sentence. And that's his contribution to the group. And then on the other end of things, you got the kid who is so afraid of not getting A's in every single subject on every single assignment every single day that, he probably does like 95% of the group work, whether his group members are great or not. So I'm here to show you how Google Docs can actually make your job at least a little bit easier in terms of trying to figure out who contributed what to the group. So let's take a look. So a brief word about this document before we go on. This is a shared Google Doc between 3 of my various Google accounts. And everybody in this doc has editing access. So your kids are going to have to do the same thing. They'll have to have a shared doc where everybody has editing rights to it. So here's one of my Google accounts. Here's another of my Google accounts. And down here in Chrome, here's a third Google account. They're all separate accounts, but they all have editing access. So now let's take a look at the document itself. As your kids work in the document, encourage them to use the commenting feature, which you can use as well. This allows them to make comments and you to make comments without actually changing the document itself. So essentially what I have here is things highlighted in yellow, vaguely yellow, and these are comments that people have made. And if I click on one, so I clicked on present, it brings up the comment. So one of my David Perforce accounts says, "We need more info." If I go down here, right, now this comment says, "I'm confused by this." So you can look into comments that way. You can also make your own comments just by highlighting something and then inserting a comment. Or even just placing your cursor somewhere and inserting a comment. There we go. So people can reply to your comments. They can also select a comment, say this one, and if they hit the check mark, they can say that it is resolved. Okay, so maybe they changed it and resolved it, or maybe they totally disagreed with your comment and resolved it anyways. So those are comments. The next thing we're going to look at is suggested edits. Suggested edits allow you to edit the document without actually officially editing the document, and I'll show you what I mean. So in order to do that, you have to come up here and click on the arrow and see there's editing, suggesting, and viewing. So you're by default most likely going to be in the editing form, which means anything you put in, you're editing the document. I'm going to switch to suggesting mode. So now see it changes, it says I'm suggesting. And now anything I type in just becomes a suggestion. So for instance, maybe I think that we should put who wrote the thing. Right? All 3 of us are contributing. So that is a suggestion. Notice that it's in green, and I'll even go back to the editing portion. So see, it's in green. That doesn't mean that it's actually there. And actually, if I was to click on this, it brings up the suggestion, add Dave, Dave, and Dave. So you can see some other suggestions here in pink. And it's in pink because this David Perforce, who's outlined in pink, made the suggestion. So replace the dash with a comma. Here's another suggestion. This one's in blue because this David Perforce in blue made the suggestion to replace the D with the RS. And anyways, you can kind of see on down the list, there's some more suggestions through here. So that's how suggested editing works. It's a good way for your kids to contribute without actually just kind of messing up the document and having to start over or go back to some weird version history. All right, now let's take a look at version history. To access version history, you come up to File, Version History, See Version History. So now we're looking at the version history, and you got to remember everybody's color coded, so the same colors apply here as in previous parts of this video. And essentially, if you have an arrow, you can put it down, and that shows more stuff that happened basically on that day. So anything in green here, this brings up the version of what green David Perforce did at 10:37 a.m. on February 18th. So green David Perforce wrote that sentence. Orange David Perforce. What did Orange David Perforce do? Orange David Perforce did that suggested edit. So you can kind of go through and see everybody's contributions as they go through here. You know, this is the beginning of the document. So it looks like on February 8th, Purple David Perforce wrote that paragraph. Good job, Purple David Perforce. Orange David Perforce. What did Orange David Perforce do here? Orange David Perforce did something right there. Aha! Orange David Perforce wrote that paragraph. So you can kind of see how everybody's contributed throughout time. And, you know, as you go on, sometimes it's little contributions. I'm not entirely sure what this person did. Somewhere we put in the picture. Aha! If I remember correctly, this is where the picture is. Yes, good job, Orange David Perforce, you put in the picture. So over here in 3 dots means you have a menu. You can actually name individual versions. So like I could name this version picture. That way if I have to go back to it for whatever reason, I can take a look, you know. And then the other thing I can do is I can restore this version. So if this is where we want to go, because this is where it was actually perfect, we can restore this version, or we can do it right here. So that's version history. I know it's not perfect. I think it'd be really nice if at the end of the thing, Google would just, you know, color code everything so that you could see exactly who did what. Unfortunately, Google doesn't do that, but if you stay tuned to the very last part of this video, I'll give you my little cheat that I have done with kids in the past to kind of solve that problem. So my little cheat here isn't exactly rocket science, and it doesn't necessarily work with every assignment you would ever do, but I have done this a few times in the past with different group projects. Basically, I just tell the kids to pick a font color, and that's your font color for the rest of the project. Whatever you do in that font color, and then when I get it handed in, I have a quick and easy visual so I can see who contributed what to each of these things. And if there's a question, you know, if a kid comes up to me and says, hey, Johnny just recolored half of my stuff his color, I can go back to version history and figure out who did what. But by and large, I never really ran into that problem. But I have a quick and easy visual as to who did what and what their contributions were. So that's my little cheat for what it's worth. So there you go. Happy collaborating, and I'll see you in the next video.